Okay, so it's 1 minute past, well, wherever you are, for me it's 1 minute past 4. Time to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to first session of the day. I'm going to talk about how you can integrate Teams and PowerApps. I'm going to give you basically a lot of demos, and you can see I've got 12 slides, out of which I think there are 3 just overview slides. So we'll keep it very short and simple with what we'll look at in PowerPoint, and we'll mostly work in Teams directly to have a look at stuff. Okay, quick comment about myself. My name is Rene Modery. I'm, well, I just mentioned it's 4 p.m. for me. I live in Singapore in very far East Asia. I work here as I've got this long title as a APAC Collaboration and Productivity Tools Project Manager. The short term is, or short word for it could be, I'm working with Office 365 on a daily basis, working for a large media investment company. And yeah, I'm dealing with Teams, OneDrive, PowerApps, SharePoint, etc. Basically every aspect of Office 365 on a daily basis, mostly handling projects and initiatives for us. I'm an Office 365 MVP since 2012. That was the name back then, Office 365 MVP. Name has changed over time, but main focus for me is still generally Office 365. I started with it when it was in beta because I got very excited about having SharePoint in the cloud accessible, having Exchange in the cloud, basically enterprise-grade applications in the cloud accessible. So I was very interested, was very curious about it, and got very active in it. So at some point I became MVP. My enthusiasm about Office 365 has not really reduced over time, has grown even more, and I'm even more excited about all the other opportunities that have come along on the way. So now we've got Teams, we've got the Power Platform, we've got a lot more things in the, well, now Microsoft 365 suite. So that's very exciting to me. I'm very happy if you want to contact me. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is @Modery. My blog can be accessed on modery.net. Reach out to me if you want to follow up with me afterwards. Also on LinkedIn, obviously, I didn't have the link here, but you just look for my name. You can find me easily. Now, next thing I want to know actually, and is I want to know a little bit more about you guys. So we've got 22 people in the meeting, including me, and I just want to get an overview of who you are. So I'm just going to post actually. Let me just bring the Teams window over here and bring the chat here. I just want to see whether what kind of work you're usually dealing with, what you're doing on a daily basis, approximately. So it's sometimes a bit tricky to say which category do you belong to, but I just want to see whether you're a Power App developer or a developer generally, whether you're more like on the Teams admin side or whether you're more like a Power user. So what I'm asking you is, you can see basically we've got these 3 options here. Can you actually like it? I think that doesn't work actually. My goal was that everybody can go in and actually like it, so I get an overview of who you are. That failed a bit, doesn't work. Okay, can you just, it's working for you guys, excellent. Why is it not working for me now? Never mind. As you can see, basically, if you are able to like it here, just help me out with something like this one here. Or if you've got anything else, feel free to add a quick comment. My idea, what I just want to figure out is what are you doing so that I can hopefully spend a little bit more time, for example, on what you're mostly working on. Okay, so for some it's working, for some it isn't. That's interesting. I've never seen it not work, but we're not trying to figure out why not. So I'm gonna move that window over here again. So we've got mostly admins, some developers, some users. So, but looks like, yeah, mostly on the administrative side. So what I'll do is just to give you some overview of what I'm going to cover in the next the next 40 minutes or so. I'm going to give you an overview actually of why we're working on or what you can do actually when you want to integrate PowerApps into Teams. Looking at the reasons why, we're going to look at ways to do so. We're looking at how you can create an app from scratch very briefly. We're going to look at how you can integrate existing apps into Teams, where you can integrate it, how you can integrate it. And lastly, we will also then look at, from an admin perspective, how can you prevent people from adding apps into Teams, how you can control what kind of apps can be added, how can you manage the apps in Teams, etc. Okay, looking at the comments, yeah, so mostly admins, some developers, excellent. So next thing we want to see, why do you want to bring PowerApps and Teams together? Teams, Microsoft always describes it as the hub for teamwork. So it's basically the one central location that you should go to get your daily work done. So previously you went to different locations to get things done. Now the idea is, oh, you've got all the teams in place. In the teams, you've got channels. In the channels, you've got different tabs. So idea is that you don't have to jump to too many different applications. You just mostly work within Teams. PowerApps obviously provide valuable business solutions to your business. So they are very targeted apps, having the benefit that more or less everyone can develop an app. That means then you see a lot of new apps coming up in companies, some very simple, some very complex. But the idea is then there are just a growing number of apps available, and more people start using it, whether it's now a simple help desk app or a IT request app or a inventory management app, doesn't really matter. So you've got a lot of apps lying around getting used. And while standard practice sometimes is, okay, you send somebody a link to the app and they bookmark it and then they lose it and they try to find it again or so. What you can also do is obviously you could create a team, integrate the app in there, and everybody who's working on that team has a direct access to the app. So they don't have to find that link again, but rather if it's a very team-focused app, for example, you have that easy accessible link in there. Again, also coming back again to jumping back and forth between applications and losing your focus. That's actually a slide that I took directly from one of the Microsoft decks from the last year's Ignite, where they talk about our routine tasks. They limit our time to create and innovate. So a lot of people spend a lot of time on routine tasks. A lot of it could be automated today, which means then those routine tasks, the goal is to automate them, to simplify them, put them into, again, for example, something like the PowerApps. So instead of doing simple stuff over and over and over again, maybe there's an app that can help you make it a bit easier and helps you to simplify it, hopefully. Plus, on the other hand, obviously, when you constantly have to switch between tasks, then obviously your focus cripples over time. So one moment you're in Outlook writing an email, then you need to switch back to maybe a Power App again to submit a form. You check again something on maybe an internal SharePoint site. You're switching to the browser, to the Teams app, to Outlook again, etc., etc. So all that switching between different applications basically, as mentioned, cripples your focus a bit. So the idea is, again, overall, let's try to reduce the amount of time we spend among different apps, but rather make sure that maybe we can streamline that a little bit more, especially when it's very focused, when our work is very focused. Now, jumping straight into some simple background information or basic information. I just want to make sure that everybody is at the same level here when we talk about the upcoming apps here. What kind of apps are we looking at? So first of all, apps in PowerApps, there are three different kinds of apps. There are the Canvas apps, which you can develop directly in the browser, which are very Canvas focused. You can drag and drop your design on it. You can connect to different sources, etc. That's what we'll be mostly dealing with today. Then there are the model-driven apps, which use the CDS as a data source mostly. Most of the model-driven apps actually, or majority of them are actually in use in Dynamics 365. So they have their own purpose, but they're slightly different, obviously, from the Canvas apps. And lastly, we've got the portal apps. So those are the public-facing internet portals. That meaning you've got some content in your CDS that you want to expose to customers, suppliers, somebody outside or so. That's what portal apps can be used for. We're not going to look at them at all today. I think they might only receive one more mention, and that's it. But just to give you an idea, there are different apps that can be developed via PowerApps. Next thing we want to see then, basically within Teams, you also have got different app modes. So an app can be added to Teams in two different ways. First, you can add it to a channel as a tab app. So you go directly to a team, to a specific channel, and on the channel, you've got your different tabs at the top. And that's where you can then basically add the Power App so that people can jump directly into that app from that specific channel. The other option is to add a personal app. That means then basically instead of having an app for a specific team, you have the apps made available to people directly, and they can be added as a personal app. Examples for those then obviously compared to the previously mentioned tab apps, which are used in Teams. The personal apps obviously are things like you could think about, well, leave requests, that's a standard thing, for example, or maybe IT support help desk. So something like that where, you know, individual people are going to use it regularly on their own, basically. So that's why I want to use that personal app. We're going to look at mostly at the tab apps today. I'm also going to try to jump a bit into the personal app. I'm going to show you a little bit in Teams directly, going to demo a bit, and we'll see how far we can get within the next 30-35 minutes. Okay, but before we do anything else, let's just assume right now we don't have any app right now. We want to do something. Let's just look at what can be done when you want to build a new app. You want to optimize it for Teams. How do you get started? What you can do is actually, I mean, you can jump directly into PowerApps and create your app from there and try to set things up. But you can actually also get started directly from Teams. And I'm just going to do that straight away. So what I have here, I'm going to do things here in the browser here. As you can see, I'm in Teams. I'm going to jump here, for example, to a specific channel. I'm going to, for example, go into my Contoso IT Teams, into my deployment channel. On the top, I've got my different tabs here. So I've got my post, files, wiki, the standard things. Then there's troubleshooting, device inventory, which were added as custom tabs. And I'm going to get add one more tab. And here, let me just quickly look for it. We've got PowerApps. I'm going to select it. Connecting to it. It's going to allow me to choose existing apps here that I have, my apps, all apps, sample apps, but I'm just going to say, hey, here's that link down here. I want to create now my own new app. So it's really from scratch, create an app. That link brings me again directly to the PowerApps Creator Studio here, where I can now create my own app. And it's going to just optimize things a little bit for Teams, meaning usually when you go in here, you might say, I want to start as a blank app with a phone layout or tablet layout, or maybe start with a specific template. What it's doing here is going to actually just create a new app with some specific things. For example, the screen has been set to landscape 16:9, and there are a few other things that have been set also in the background. So it's not extremely specific to Teams what it has been doing here, but it's trying to optimize it really when you get started here, what's happening. And all we're going to do now is keep it simple. Text, we're just going to say hello. What do I want to do? User dot full name, something like this. Okay. Make it a bit bigger. That's it. Okay, we're not going to do anything fancy with this app because obviously goal right now is not to look at how we can do a lot of things in the app directly, but rather just to show you, we're going to do a simple app here right now. I'm going to save it. Yeah. I'm just going to call it Demo App 1 because that's a very great name. Saving it to PowerApps. And that's it for the moment. So I'm going to switch that back to my tab here. Let me just refresh again. Here's my demo app that I just created. Selecting it and saving it. And as you can see, with that, I've got my app added in here. So you can see it's going to greet me here. I'm logged in as the administrator account right now. So obviously, if I log in as another person, then obviously it would be a different name. But you get the idea. The app is running right now, right here in this context. So that's how I can easily create an app directly from here within a specific team, create it, and basically then add it to the tab here as well. And let me just confirm again on the post. Yep, the notification has been added here as well. So I can also then jump in here again if wanted. And obviously I can add more comments here. Good. Very good. All right. So when it comes to creating apps, I think there's not that much work and that has to be said here. When you create an app, that's one way that you can start it, but you don't have to. Obviously, if you want to create an app first directly somewhere else, and then import it here, that's something that we're going to look at in a minute. So the idea is then, just jump here, adding an existing app into a channel. So obviously, I'm not going to explain anything in PowerPoint here anymore. Right now, what you've seen here just now is basically what I want to do next. I've got an existing app, I want to add it into the channel, and I want to demo it to you guys. So again, basically, let me do it just here again. I'm going to jump here to PowerApps, and we are just going back to the same dialog again. Choose from existing apps. So you can see here, I've got existing apps. Those are my apps that I created. So that's why they're listed here. I can also actually look for other apps. So obviously I can search if I've got a lot. I've only got 2, demo tenant, not a lot, so easy to find, but gonna keep it. I can look for all apps. Again, demo tenant, I'm the only guy in here right now, so there are no other apps. If there were a lot more apps to be shared that were shared with me, I would now see a long list of apps that I could now add to as a tab here to my current channel. Now, the third one I quickly want to show you is sample apps. Now, that's interesting. What we have here is also some additional apps that were provided by Microsoft. So those are, you could say, the commonly used apps that you can consider. See, there's Book a Room, there's a budget tracker. You've got, for example, where is it? The help desk app. You've got the leave request app, etc. What I want to do is I want to do the inventory management. I think now there's 2. I'm just going to choose the left one. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going to add this one here. Again, that's a sample app. And as you can see here, this app is now available directly in here. Let me see what we've got. There's some data here coming through, very good. And I can look at it. So you can see I'm actually interacting with my app here right now. So I can easily say now I want to restock, I want to do things here directly in the app. Let's just say if I now switch context. So what's happening if I'm in the app here, I'm just going to say, let me look at this. This one has got a low inventory level. I'm just going to actually talk to someone here, going to chat with, we still need new stock for XYZ. Coming back into my team, I just want to got it here. As you can see, basically it's jumping back into the app. So the drawback is you lose the context here a bit. So whatever I was doing here just now, it's just going to open the app again with a new context, you could say. So while I was here just now looking at, I think the first item here, it doesn't remember it right now. So that's one of the drawbacks here. It starts again, it opens the app again from scratch once you jump to that tab. The same thing again, if I go in here, I'm just going to go to, let's say, files again, to inventory management, and you see the same thing again. It opens the app again, and I can see the home screen. That's one very important thing to remember when you integrate apps here into Teams. Well, the goal is to have the apps readily available here. You can access them directly. It's not the same as having the app, for example, open here in a separate tab. That's then a drawback that you would have to consider. This is not always something that is wanted, and obviously, right now it's a negative user experience. If somebody wants to order something, talk to something, jump to a different channel, etc., jump back again, you lose what you've been doing here right now, and you would have to come back in and redo it again. But as we can see, basically right now, it's quite easy then to actually add an app here directly. I can also rename it. If, for example, it's currently called inventory management, I can easily rename it, and I can also then remove it if I don't want it. So for my demo app, let's say, I don't want to have it anymore. It's quite easy then to just get rid of it. Okay, one quick thing. So that demo app that I just added up here, let's jump to a different team. I'm just going to go here to a different team, different channel. Again, adding a Power App. Where does it live? So you can see basically when I create an app within Teams here, I started creating an app in Teams. Obviously, it's not a very Teams or channel-specific app that I created. It is a generic app that I created. So my demo app one that I created in Contosa IT is obviously not living within Contosa IT, but it exists within my PowerApps environment. And it can also be added then, for example, to Contosa Finance or any other team. So there's no, you could say, no limitation here, no restriction. that's also one important thing to consider when you create a very specific app and you grant it access to different locations. Again, people might also then start considering it, or you would have to consider where else do you want to add it. Now, let me just see. I just want to demo the app in the existing channel. Yeah, that's good. So we added it now to a channel. We have it in here right now, but what else can we now do with it? I mean, we've got now our app here, an existing app that we added. What if the app gets updated in background? Do I have to do anything in Teams? Obviously not. The moment you make a change here, for example, and you publish it, let me go back to this one here. I'm just gonna, sorry. Sorry, is somebody not muted right now? Any question or? No? Okay, all good. Yeah, excellent. Just want to do a quick, no, let's just change the font size. That's something we can see now easily like that. Okay, let's make this also a bit wider. Going to save it. Saving it, obviously, as you remember, just saves my current version here, but it's only visible to me. I'm going to publish this app, publish this version. Once I go back in here, I'm just going to refresh this one here right now. And you can see it now. It's safe, it's safe. Let me just refresh again. Here you can see it now. So obviously I don't have to do anything in Teams. The latest app is accessible. So obviously I'm just linking to the app and I can see it directly here. Any changes that get published are directly available. I don't have to do anything here in in Teams, obviously. One other quick thing I want to mention is what you might also think or consider is actually this app here. What if I, let me just actually open it here. What if I just take this link here, for example, direct link to the app. I'm gonna now say I want to add a website, for example. Demo app 1 web. I'm gonna add the link here. Can't I just, for example, do something like this here? I have got that app link here available. I'm gonna add it like this. What can I do that actually? So you can see here, okay, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. So most of the time it's actually working, but I can tell you that from time to time you may actually encounter some login issues. So you can see here, if your site isn't loading correctly, click here. That kind of warning, for example, doesn't show up when you connect it as a Power App here or add the tab as a Power App. So just a quick reminder, adding a Power App up here just with the existing URL, for example, may work a good amount of time, but sometimes you would see login screens here every time that you navigate to it. So you can see it right now here, for example, if your site isn't loading correctly, click here. I've encountered a couple of times where people added, for example, really an app directly here as a website instead of an app, and then people accessing or trying to access it would have to log in. Bit troublesome. If you just use the native Power App tab, that's much better. Okay, so that's actually quite simple, adding the existing app. Next thing we want to do here is, let me just jump to the next one, adding existing apps to the Microsoft Teams Tenant Apps Catalog. It's quite a long word here, the Microsoft Teams Tenant Apps Catalog. So what we want to do is here, again, I'm logged in as admin. I'm just going to go, for example, in here, I can see different apps. I can see here more apps. I can also go over here to apps, same location, and say upload a custom app. Once I do that, I've got the option upload for Contoso. And once I do that, it's going to say, hey, you want to upload a file. I need that compressed zip folder. I don't have one here right now. Where do I get that from? So what I can do is I've got, for example, here my demo app 1, which was that wonderful app we just created. What I can do is, for example, I can say now I want to add it to Teams. Let me just get rid. And you can see here, add to Teams mean I can download then the zip file and upload it as a custom app. So all looks good here. I'm just going to download the app. It's going to get packaged, prepared for Teams. you download it? Yeah, let me just confirm. Yeah, it's in downloads. Okay. So going back again over here, we're going to upload again, downloads and demo app 1. It's going to get uploaded. And here we have it. So obviously it's not beautiful demo app 1 with a broken icon, but at least you can see this is now an app that we built. There's a standard description, standard information, etc. We didn't provide anything. We're just going to say we're going to add it. And as you can see here, for example, that's one way how we can now make it accessible to people. We've got, let me just search for it here, demo app 1. If I'm looking for it right now, even as a regular user, I can, for example, find it in here, and then I can now add it. I mean, in my case, I already added it just now, as you've seen, but now I can easily add it as well. That's one way how we can add additional apps as well. So when you want to, again, for example, add the help desk app that you created, or the any other app that you want to make available to all people so they can access it directly from Teams, what you can do is add it as an admin to the app catalog. And from here, then, for example, people can then go in, add the app to their teams, and then access it here directly from that section here. So you've got the default apps, but now I've also got my demo app 1 that I can access right now here. Obviously, purpose, again, not very useful, but again, we see basically we created a very simple app, and now we can reuse it easily. All right. Now, checking time. Yeah, we still got time. Let me just check if anyone had any questions. Yes. Can one app be shared amongst more than one team? So that's what I've shown just now. I mean, the app generally lives within PowerApps. What you have to do, obviously, when you create an app, you need to make sure that you share it then appropriately. So if you add an app to a team and nobody has access, then if they try to access it, they will get an error. What you have to do is then obviously share with the corresponding people. What you can do is, for example, a common scenario might be you just want to say when you create an app that you want to share with everyone across different teams, you just share with everyone within the organization, for example. You don't want to send an email invitation to everyone. And the same thing, obviously, you could also then share it with 10 other people here as well. Can we deep link from a bot to a specific screen on PowerApp? That's a very good question. A specific screen. I've seen it before, actually. I just can't remember whether there's an easy way to do it right now, or whether you have to, for example, say you provide a specific parameter where you say, for example, and screen equals screen 1, and then within the app on the on start, you then check whether that parameter has been set, and then do a manual navigate. Might be that there's something available right now, but I'm not entirely sure about it. It's been some time since I've seen that functionality, and I think it was custom built, and I haven't checked in the past few months, actually, whether there's any update on something like that. But deep linking might be coming relatively soon again as well. Don't quote me on that, but I've seen some comments somewhere on Twitter, I think, or would have to check again, actually. Either way, so deep linking to a specific screen, again, you might also have the possibility to, again, provide a specific parameter. Now, what else we want to look at is, let me jump over here again so that I can see my overview. Administration. So we've got a couple of administrators here. You've seen now me as an admin adding apps. Maybe you don't want everyone in your organization to add apps to your teams. Maybe you want to see which apps are currently available. Maybe you want to block some apps. What can you do? So first thing we do, obviously, there's the Teams Admin Center. Obviously, we're looking with Microsoft Teams. We're trying to see what we can do now with the apps. And once you log into the Admin Center here, you've got a section called Teams Apps. This is now where you have got a couple of options. Let me just actually refresh that just to make sure that I've got the latest context. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. what we want to do is basically we want to review some policies that we can set up and some settings. Well, let's try again. Okay, now it's better. So first of all, we've got some org-wide app settings. If you want to completely disable apps, if you want to disallow that people upload new apps or anything like that, when you go into manage apps here, org-wide app settings, that's one important thing here. Do you want to allow third-party apps? Because if you remember just now, when we go back to Teams, for example, when we go to apps, you can see there are a lot of apps here, actually. There's some from Microsoft, there's some from other companies. Do you allow them or not? You can actually say, no, we don't allow them. And you also don't allow any new third-party apps and publish to the store by default. Those are the possibilities here. Custom apps, and those, for example, that we just developed or other people develop, do you allow that or not? Again, also you can have a yes or no setting here. That's something to be, obviously, to be reviewed on a very high level. This is where it can be very restrictive and say, do you allow those apps or do you not allow those apps? All right. Now, that's again the org-wide app settings. What else do we have? We've got also then the manage apps area here where you can see there are a lot of apps already generally available. So those are, as you can see, a lot of third-party apps that we've got around here that you can manage. We're not going to work with any of those, obviously. Just to let you know, then yeah, they are available here. You could do some, you could, for example, also disallow specific apps here. But we're not going to actually go and do anything with them. You can also see the upload new app here. Let me just actually try that here. If I upload my demo app 1, you can see basically that's not where you can actually edit. You would have to do it directly from within Teams. Here we can't upload the app, doesn't work. Let me just confirm again, demo, yeah, correct. But next thing we want to do is look at the permission policies and the setup policies. So app permission policies. Apps you want to make available to Teams users in your organization. So we've got our global policies, but then obviously we can have some further additional policies. So here we've got our global current org-wide default policy, where we right now, for example, say we allow all apps for Microsoft and its partners. Can they be installed by our users? And a couple of different settings available. So I could say, for example, I only allow specific apps and block all others. So there are ways then, for example, how I can manage those from Microsoft. I'm just going to allow all again. Third-party apps, which apps that were developed by third-party developers can be added. Again, similar settings here. Do I want to allow specific apps? Do I want to allow all apps, etc.? Again, let me just leave it all. And lastly, tenant apps. I've again got, again, the 4 settings, all apps, specific apps and block all, or block only specific apps and allow all others, or block all apps. Most of the time, actually, people just say, yeah, we allow all apps, but at some point you might say, no, we want to block a specific app because we've got some concerns, obviously. Then you can either say then you block then specific ones and allow everything else, or you go the other way around, you whitelist basically then what can be done. So it's whitelisting, blacklisting, allowing everything, or blocking everything. You can block everything, but that basically then means you lose the a lot of functionality in Teams. The purpose of Teams might become a little bit or quite different then. So those are some of the policies that we can see in the global org-wide default setting, but we can also then, for example, add an additional policy where we say we just restricted users, where we can say, for example, we allow block specific apps, we block specific apps, we block specific apps. I'm not going to choose anything right now. Actually, here we don't have anything, then we're going to allow all. Do we have anything here? No, then we allow specific apps, and we have to do it this way anyway. Allow. Flops, something like this. Just jumping actually in here, I just want to show you this very quickly. So you can have a permissions policy set up here. Okay, so now we've got my custom policy. Is it working? Yeah. Give me a second. Here we go. And now can actually, for example, also assign users to this policy. Again, that's one thing how we can manage actually some app permissions here. So you can restrict some apps directly. You can add then the people to that restriction, or you can actually whitelist it when you say, for example, oh, generally our org-wide default is, for example, we block all apps except specific ones. But then again, you can also then whitelist against some other users to provide more. That's one of the ways how you can manage then apps in here. The other one here, set up policies. How apps are made available to a user within the Teams app. Again, let's just have a quick look at the default again. Global default is we don't allow custom apps. So people are not allowed to upload, obviously, custom apps. Admins are allowed. And then you've got some pinned apps here at the bottom that are shown by default in the app navigation bar. The app navigation bar is that one here on the left. So we've got our 5 default icons, an additional one. Let's actually add one more app. So just see if I can. No, I can't. What you can do is then basically you can actually manage the pinned apps here as well. Not going to try to modify anything here right now. Right now, as you can see, for example, upload custom apps is not allowed. I'm going to cancel that one here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new custom app devs, because what you want to do is maybe you don't want only admins to allow to upload custom apps, but you also want to allow, for example, specific users to upload custom apps. So what we're doing here, upload custom apps, that's the site loading, meaning then now basically that's for developers, obviously they can now add their own apps. That's maybe something that you want to consider enabling here in that scenario. Custom app devs has been added. We're going to select it again. We can manage users again. And again, I can look for someone, add that person, apply. Now, okay, one user was assigned to that policy, all good here. What is now very important is actually that we've got our org-wide policies, we've got our permission policies, and we've got setup policies. Let me just actually open something here. How did they now all work together? So what we have is, let me just grab. Here it is. What we have, or what there is actually, there's a very good Microsoft document, Streamline Business Process with Microsoft Teams and PowerApps. It's a large PDF, well, it's not large. It's a 60-page PDF with a lot of valuable information, which actually mostly covers also in a bit more detail actually what I was talking about, how you can pin an app, how we can add tabs, apps as tabs, etc. And what we also have here is then that how those policies here that I was just talking about, for example, how they work together. And actually, I just remembered one policy I still need to mention. I'm coming back to that. But you can see basically with the different policies in place, there are different combinations available. Sometimes something is off, sometimes on. So this document provides you a much more detailed information about what you can see, where you can see it. The other policy I quickly wanted to mention is as a team owner. Let me just see if I go in here. No, it's not. And the permissions. What you sometimes also want to do then is here allow members to upload custom apps. That's the one I was looking for, right in the middle. So as members, obviously, you're allowed to do a couple of things. sometimes you might want to restrict as a team owner that people don't upload their custom apps here and, for example, also add and remove apps. So that's also one important thing to consider here. That's also one of the settings to be looked at. All right. So looking back at what we've quickly done just now in the past 30, 40 minutes. So we've had a quick look at how you can create an app directly from Teams. We looked at how you can add an app directly to Teams. I added actually, I think it was lost here, demo app, yeah. We looked at how you can add an app to Teams. We looked at how you can manage apps within Teams, etc. There are a couple of other things then obviously that you might want to consider now. So again, just quickly coming back to the developers, one thing that people are looking at is when you create an app for Teams, sometimes you might want to have some very team-specific information. Maybe you want to be able to figure out, for example, the branding of the team. What kind of information can you receive from the team? Let me just grab that last link here that I have here, and Teams. No, that's the wrong link, I think. Let me just actually open both links. I'll share them with you also, actually. Better app, that's not what I wanted. I want to use context from Teams. Within Teams, obviously, we've got a specific team context. So maybe you want to figure out within the app, hey, from which team am I actually currently being called, actually? Which team am I added to? Which channel, something like that. So what you have is actually within PowerApps, you can actually use the param function to get some team context variables. So you can see, for example, then, if Teams is running in a dark mode theme, then maybe you want to use a different background compared to, for example, a contrast theme. And by default, then use something specific as a background color. So you don't just want to provide, hey, background color is always white, because then when you go into Teams, for example, yeah, right now it's actually okay with white, but once I switch to a dark theme, then, oh, everything would be dark, but my background would be white. So that's not what I want. That's, for example, then where you want to use then some context information. I can see there are a couple of things that you can then actually retrieve from Teams here. So you can see, for example, what's the channel that you're currently in, what's the team that you're currently in, something like that. So that's something that was only added very recently. So you can see March 2020. One important thing then here, I mentioned earlier, the apps always get basically referenced directly, but if you added your app to Teams before that, then you have to re-upload it again to Teams, make it available, so that when you create an app for Teams, when you get the context from Teams directly, then you have to use basically, or re-upload it so they can make use of it. Last comment for developers, then also you've got some possibilities to improve the performance of your app. So there are some things that can be done. I'm not going to go in detail in them. That's also referenced in the PDF I just mentioned. That's in here. So that means I'm just going to jump over here right now to the resources. I've got that resources slide. The whole slide deck will be made available afterwards. While it doesn't contain that much in the end, I think those 4 links are quite relevant. So you've got the admin settings, you've got information how you can embed Teams apps in Teams and how you can create apps for Teams. Plus you've got the white paper that I just mentioned with a lot of detail. So that's actually, I would say, one of the first things that you should actually get started with. Okay, so that's what I'm going to make available afterwards. We are now slowly finishing. We've got a few more minutes, actually. Are there any additional questions? So write it in the chat, unmute yourself if you want to know anything else. I'm still happy to talk a few minutes more if needed. All right, I'm just quickly monitoring it, left the chat, not much. As you can see, I mean, goal of the session here was to provide an overview of what can be done. There's a lot that you would have to look into it in much more in-depth. For example, the admin settings obviously require a good review, actually, where you might have to actually review the descriptions and the implications in much more detail. That's, yeah, I would even say nearly a session by itself. For developers, we just saw that those parameters, I mean, that's also quite nice. That can also be another 30 minutes of demoing how that can be done. There's a lot, again, that you can look at. And basically, if you look at these 4 links here, they can help you really get started fairly well in the end. Those are the main links I would look at. Okay. Good. I think there are no further questions then. I'm still going to hang around for a short while, so I'm going to mute myself. I'll be around for a few more minutes. If there's anything else you want to know, actually, while we're here, let me just actually post those 4 links directly in the chat for everyone's here. Okay, let me just reduce the size. No, doesn't work. It's going to be quite big. Never mind. Giant links for you. But now you get them definitely. All right. So anything else? I'm still going to be around for a couple more minutes. And again, thank you for joining today. Hope you learned at least a little bit new. And last reminder before I forget it, remember there's a feedback form. Any feedback is valuable. So if you've got any comments, what can be improved, was I talking too fast, demo's not good enough, etc., just let me know. Feedback is very appreciated in any way. Thank you.